Welcome to the Leadership Purpose with Dr. Robin podcast. I'm your host, Robin L. Owens, Ph.D., and this is where we dive in each week to give advice, tools, and tips for high-achieving, purpose-minded women who've written nonfiction books and want to amplify their message beyond the book. I'm a college professor, and when I'm not doing that, I am speaking, coaching, mentoring, and teaching high-achieving women who have written books how to use their books to make a bigger difference, have more impact, and purpose. Okay, let's dive in. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Leadership Purpose with Dr. Robin podcast. So glad you're here today and listening in. I really appreciate you. Okay, so today's episode will be a solo episode, as I've done in the past, and it basically is just me sharing from my heart and my thoughts in my mind for you. And I've been thinking about this idea of consultant, author, or both. And what brought it to mind was a conversation I had with a consultant not too long ago. And we talked about how consultants who have written books and published books don't typically see themselves as authors. And it made me reflect on my own experience. And I realized that it took a while, and I'm still getting there. It took a while for me to identify myself as an author, even though I have had published writings. And it really occurred to me not too long ago. I was at an event downtown LA, and it was a book reading and gathering reception for authors. Most of those authors were fiction authors. And so that's another thing. I think when people hear the word author, or when consultants think about authors, they think, oh, that's those people who write novels and who are fiction authors. Okay, so now I'm at this event and we're, mingling and the conversation, talking with different people, and the conversation would start typically with, are you an author? And it took me a moment. It's like, oh, right. Yeah, I am. Yes, I am. So in my mind, though, it took a moment to register, because that's not the first way I identify myself professionally. And so I imagine it might be the same for other consultants. So if you have a variety of professional identities, and then you write and publish a book or an article or a chapter in a book, then you don't typically identify yourself as an author. So now let me ask you, if you are a consultant, coach, business owner who has written and published a book, do you see yourself as an author or consultant or both? What comes to mind when someone asks you, what do you do? Is author on the list? Is it top of mind? Think about that and let me know. Let me know what comes to your mind first. I would love to hear from you. Now, let me tell you about what I think it means to be an author, right? And all this conversation today is to help consultants and business owners and other people who have published books to kind of embrace their sense of their identity of being an author. And for anyone else who is not an author, it's to encourage you to embrace different aspects of your own professional identity. And I'm focusing on professional identity here just to keep it focused and sort of streamlined. Okay, so what does it mean to be an author? Simply, or we can approach it this way. What's the difference between a writer and an author? So a writer can be anyone who writes, especially if you write on a consistent and or regular basis. So that's a writer. The distinction between a writer and an author, in my mind, is an author is someone who has published their writing. So as an article, a chapter, a book, a report, it's been published. So that is my definition of an author. So that's how I make that distinction. So you're an author. That's what it means to be an author. Why is it important to understand and see yourself as an author? For a couple of reasons. One is because it's part of who you are. It's a part of your professional identity. It may even feel like a part of your personal identity. Like I mentioned here, I'm focusing on this professional identity. So it's important because whenever any of us, whenever whenever we don't accept a part of who we are, we don't get what we want as a result of that part of who we are. Okay, now let me try to explain that. So for your book, you're an author, you want to get your message out there, you want to get your work out there, or you want to reach more readers. There's a reason why you wrote the book and a reason why you published it, because you wanted it out there, right? You want to make a difference. So in order to have the impact you want, it's closely identified to how you connect with your sense of identity. So if you don't believe you are an author and you don't see yourself as an author, then you won't take the steps, you won't take the action steps that would lead you to having more reach with your book, to get the message of your book out more, to speak to your readers, to speak to your audience. You just won't do it because actions come from beliefs. So then you might be saying, well, how do I begin to accept myself as an author when I have all these other professional identities that take maybe more time, are more prominent in your work? How, you might be asking, how do you begin? How do I begin to accept myself as an author? And I say the way you do that is you change your beliefs. Now, that sounds like very simple. Oh, just change your beliefs. Easy to say, hard to do. But the way you change your beliefs is to change your thoughts. Again, sound very simple, but it is profound and true. Because you know what your beliefs are? Your beliefs are thoughts that you just keep thinking over and over again. When you have a thought and you think about it over and over and over again, in time, it becomes a belief. So your beliefs are thoughts you just keep thinking. So the way to accept yourself in this particular identity as an author, you begin to think about yourself as an author. And you do that consistently and regularly. I mean, people have their different opinions about affirmations. Do they work? Are they woo-woo? They have different ideas about it, but I'll tell you about mine. If you affirm, basically agree with yourself in your mind, in your thoughts, saying, I am an author. Now, how you do that is up to you. If you are a person who does affirmations, you can write it out and post it somewhere where you can see it or say it, however you do your affirmations. But I'm encouraging you to affirm, I am an author. I am an author. And to continue as you're speaking this, you begin to think it. You begin to think it. It's not like a magic thing. You say a word and you turn into this thing necessarily. It is a shift in your thinking, and your thinking shifts by you saying it consistently, regularly. I am an author. And to think about yourself as an author, just like in your mind, imagine yourself as an author. And you don't have to make it a big deal. I'm speaking from personal experience. I try to make everything into a job, a task, and it doesn't have to be a big thing. Just think about, from now on, I'm just going to think about myself as an author. I am an author. And you say that, write it, think that. And because I mentioned before, a belief is a thought you keep thinking over and over again, you begin to believe it. You begin to believe it. Now, I'm saying this in a short, simple steps like this, but it takes time. And this is true for any sense of identity you have or any shift that you want to make in yourself. But today, we're talking about authors because of this idea of wanting to have more impact as an author. All right. So think about yourself and affirm in ways that work for you. Affirm, I am an author. This is how you begin to accept this professional identity. And the reason why it's important to think about it and believe it, because if you don't believe it, you can't do anything about it. Everything you do stems from a belief you have. There's a belief about something that leads to your actions. And so if you want to amplify the message from your book, you want to increase the impact of your book, first have to see yourself as an author and believe it. Because when you believe it, you'll start taking steps and actions that lead you toward the goals you have for your book. But it starts with belief. It has to be there. And once you have that belief and start taking those actions, you'll be expanding your message, amplifying your message, reaching more readers, and expanding the growth of your business as a consultant. So consultant, author, or both. I say both. And I encourage you to embrace both as a part of your professional identity and watch how things change for you. You begin to reach more people, amplify your knowledge, and increase your profits. I know you will. It's happening for me. I know it's going to happen for you. And so go ahead and affirm, I am an author. All right, so that's our episode for today. And if you've been thinking about this for quite a while, you're a consultant and you've been wanting to create a course based on your book, then I'd be happy to help you with that. And I can do that through my free 4-part video series that you're welcome to run right over to my website, createmasterfulcourses.com, createmasterfulcourses.com, and pick up that free video series there. All right, see you there. And until next time, this is Dr. Robin. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Leadership Purpose with Dr. Robin podcast. If you enjoyed it, head on over and rate and subscribe so you never miss an episode. New episodes drop every week, and I can't wait to hang out with you again soon. Meanwhile, this is Dr. Robin signing off. See you next time.